Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
Lots of strange bits and pieces of news breaking today for the Cleveland Browns. Do we have confirmation finally on this new stadium? Is that whole saga finally over? They're going to start putting shovels to dirt in Cleveland in Brook Park. Is that finally going to go down? The Browns cut Ogbo Okoronkwo, and then they re-sign Andrew Smythe on top of that. I have thoughts on all of this, but let's start with the new stadium. The Browns' new stadium. This has been a story that at first was pretty fun and interesting to talk about, and then became a whole debate between the Cleveland Browns and then the city. And at that point, it just stopped being fun to talk about, to be honest with you, or interesting to talk about. It seemed like the city, from my perspective, was trying to get something back for the Browns leaving downtown Cleveland, which I can respect the effort. I'm gonna be honest with you, right? Like, it's like the Denzel clip. I'm from round the way. I'm leaving here with something. Okay, cool, right? Now, I don't know if the city was really like die hard in thinking they were going to be able to keep the Browns downtown, but if they was just trying to get a little something, okay, cool. Hopefully they can get them a little something. I'm not going to be somebody who's going to weep for Jimmy Haslam's pockets. You know what I mean? Like, especially if it's going to benefit the actual city of Cleveland. So that whole battle was taking place between the mayor and the Haslam family. I think that battle is still going on, but it's pretty inconsequential at this point. I feel like the time to get you a little something was earlier, not now, because what happened is that the state legislature, which was withholding state funds, which I do believe is different than the county funds that the Browns are also looking to add to this project, and the city funds that the Browns are looking to add to this project. Now, I don't know if Brook Park has its own municipality and mayor and access to funds. I don't know. I've never lived out there in Brook Park. I've only lived in like Cleveland adjacent suburbs on the east side. But yeah. So I don't know if Brook Park has its own mayor and they have their own like substantial access to capital there, and they're helping fund this stadium. But I do know that the county, Cuyahoga County, is also involved in the funding. I think that issue hasn't been completely resolved yet. But the $600 million that the Browns were looking to get from the state has been approved from the Ohio State House of Representatives and the Ohio Senate, which means it's awaiting approval via Mike DeWine's signature on that bill. Now, there are things that can change at the governor part of this, well, the executive part of this lawmaking process. If you don't know, the House makes the bills in a system of government similar to the U.S. The Senate confirms those bills, and then it is up to the executive of the state to sign those bills, confirming that the three branches worked all together to make it and everything else like that. So that is where that is. Mike DeWine could, do a line item veto where he says, hey, I'm fine with the bill at large, but I want this and this and this out of the bill. And then it would have to go back through the House and back through the Senate and then get approved by Mike DeWine that way. It is possible that that could happen. It's possible it couldn't happen. But in large part, the bulk of this funding is likely to happen, right? The bulk of that $600 million is probably going to go to the Cleveland Browns to build that stadium. Whether there are other strings attached to that $600 million is what's yet to be determined, but the $600 million has been approved for the Cleveland Browns. We're really just talking about terms now instead of the actual whether the bill will pass, which I think the bill was always likely to pass. So that is what's going on with the new stadium. That means that they have the initial seed money to start construction. Remember, just because a stadium cost $1 billion or $2 billion to make doesn't mean that you got, like, it's like you're going to Sears. Well, Sears, that was old. It's not like you're going to Target or Walmart, right? And you're buying a new stadium and you need $2 billion to get the stadium off the shelf and built. You buy these things as the price rises. So the $600 million is the initial amount that they will need. It is very likely, let me tell you, it is very likely that they're going to come back to the state and ask for more money within the next couple of years, because this construction prices have skyrocketed for whatever reason, or they have seen some delays or whatever reason. From what I hear, they're building this stadium on what used to be a garbage disposal, which just feels like there's going to be construction issues when it comes to building foundation and everything else like that. Maybe construction goes relatively smooth and it stays within budget, but I've literally never heard of a football project like this going smoothly and under budget. It always has turmoil. So you're going to hear about more bills being passed, more things being passed there. And unfortunately, public money is a part of this, which means taxpayer dollars are a part of this. My personal opinion on taxpayer dollars being used to fund stadiums is, unless you're going to give me a discount for being in state, then I don't really see why I need to pay for this stadium. Like, I understand the argument, oh, it brings jobs and commerce and it increases the local economy, but it also increases the local pockets of the people who can afford to build these stadiums. So it's a business venture for the people who own the building. It's not necessarily a generous donation of Jimmy Haslam to grace us with a new stadium. He doing that shit to make money. So why are we paying for him to help him make money when he making that money off overcharging us for tickets, overcharging us for concessions? Makes no sense to me. I understand why people vote for it ultimately, because you want to keep the Browns in Cleveland, which usually ends up being the consequence when you don't vote for these things, which is, I think, kind of screwed up that the NFL allows that to be a play, but that's a whole different thing. But yes, the new stadium is being built with public money. They're getting $600 million from the state. I don't know the specifics of how that $600 million is going to be funded from the state, right? Like, I don't know. They're going to have to get that $600 million somewhere. There's a bunch of different mechanisms into that. I am not educated well enough on those types of things to be able to be an authority of it. So if you can find somebody who actually knows what they're talking about when it comes to how that bill is going to be funded, I would recommend listening to them about that and taking their information more than you would take my information on how this thing is funded. So that is what's going on with the new stadium. It is interesting because, like, $600 million is a lot of money, but it's not enough to build a stadium with. Like, what's the stadium supposed to cost? Like $2 billion, right? And the Browns are trying to get half of it from public funding. So, like, where the other $400 million going to come from, right? Now, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think they're trying to make this stadium is going to be a $2 billion stadium. They're trying to build something state of the art like Mercedes-Benz. And let me look up what Mercedes-Benz costs. Mercedes-Benz Stadium in 2014 was about 1.6 billion. So you have to adjust for inflation there, which is significant when we're talking about billions of dollars. So yeah. Don't know how much that's supposed to cost. Yeah, well, I'm reading here 2.4 billion is what they're saying for the new stadium. So, like, yeah, 600 million is a lot of money, but I mean, it's not really even putting a dent into what they're asking for, which I think they're asking for at least half, right? They're saying this is going to be a 50-50 venture. So there's still a staggering amount of money that has to be passed. And maybe this points into multiple different bills from the state giving money, but they're probably going to ask a ton from the county too as well. So that is what's going on with the stadium, my thoughts on it. The next news item of the day is that the Browns have cut Ogbo Okoronkwo and have signed a kicker, Andrew Smythe. Now, he was with the team already, and then they cut him, so they just brought him back. It seems like a more of a procedural thing than anything. I'll start with Obo Okoronkwo. Once they signed Joe Tryon, the writing was kind of on the wall with Obo. I thought he'd at least make it through camp. I am surprised that they have released him already. It does seem a bit early for that, but there's going to be a tight jam here in the defensive line room, right? They like to keep about 10 guys. We know Miles is going to make the team. We know Joe Tryon's going to make the team. We know that Isaiah McGuire is going to make the team. Like, those threes are the locks in your edge room. Is just thinking off the top of my head. Then you got Shelby Harris, who is likely to make a team. That brings it to 4. Mike Hall, Mason Graham, right? That brings it to 6. We got 4 spots left for the defensive line. You're talking about your free agent signing, who was Malik Collins, right? So that's 7. And then you have who else on the roster who's probably making the team, right? Without question. I would put, so right now I'm counting about 7 guys who are guaranteed to make the roster. You got Alex Wright, who's going to make somebody's 53-man roster. Jawan Briggs, who's going to make somebody's 53-man roster. You got a pretty tight jam there, right? So Obo Okoronkwo, it made a lot of sense that he beat odd man out in this situation. Unfortunately, the Sam Kamara is somebody they have liked the roster for the last 2-3 years. So, like, even he's not somebody you can act like is not guaranteed to make the team. So yeah, there is a lot going on with the Browns defensive line room. This is a good problem to have. You got more depth than you thought you were going to have coming into the season. I always applaud having depth on the defensive line, so not a problem with me. Unfortunately, with Ogbo, it made a lot of sense that the Browns will let him go. They save some money by letting him go. Now let's talk about Andrew Smythe, the kicker that they brought in. He is a UFL kicker, and I have been begging the Browns to give UFL kickers a chance. He's not one of the, sexy names from the UFL, right? Now, Andre Smythe is a kicker. He played collegiately at Syracuse. In college, won the Lou Groza Award in 2018. Kicked in the preseason for the Chicago Bears in 2023 and was a regular season kicker for the St. Louis Battlehawks in 2024, was the UFL field goals leader in the UFL that year. It is worth noting that the Battlehawks do play inside a dome, which means there's a bit of a transition there for Andre, who was also a dome kicker in college. But, this is somebody who has success in the UFL. This is somebody that the Browns are bringing in to try to compete with Dustin Hopkins. My concern is that maybe the Browns aren't super serious with this competition at kicker. I would like to see another name added to it. I know I'm an outlier when it comes to that, but it feels like this is the classic, let's have a young guy in camp with our kicker to push our veteran, but we really want to keep our veteran competition and not necessarily like a legitimate, hey man, you better kick right or else we're going to go with the young guy thing here, right? So we'll see what happens here with Dustin Hopkins. I do think kicker is going to be very important for the Cleveland Browns because when you try to play the level of the type of offensive football that the Browns are looking to play, offense is going to be real hard to get by, and points are going to be at a premium, which means field goals are going to be very valuable to winning. A lot of Pittsburgh's success has to do with having a good kicker over the last few years. So we'll see what the Browns are going to do with kicker going forward, but that's who they've brought in. It seems intentional. They've brought him in twice at this point. So that's what's going on with the Browns. They cut a player. They signed a player. They got $600 million in funding for a new stadium. Is the fight over for the new stadium? Probably. It seems like they're going to build that stadium in Brook Park. Everything else is about details at this point, right? What kind of favors need to be cashed in, or what are these strings attached to the money, and who's going to get recompensated where. That seems to be more of what the debate is around the stadium moving to Brook Park, but it seems like that main part of it, the Brook Park thing, that's happening. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.